Anthony is a 10-year-old boy who lives in North Minneapolis. He takes the city bus to and from school, and the only wilderness he's ever experienced is the squirrel that's jumped from his apartment window to the tree outside. I'm going to outline a few reasons why we should send kids like Anthony to camp. First, we'll talk about why summer camp in general is good for kids. Second, we'll talk about why wilderness camps, and specifically the wilderness canoe base camp, is good for kids and beneficial. And thirdly, we'll look at why we should raise money to send kids to these places. According to the American Camp Association, camp builds self-identity, self-worth, self-esteem, leadership, self-respect, community, compassion, contribution, and character. These are all things that kids learn at camp because they are in a setting outside of their family, and they are taught to learn and live with others, and it encourages responsibility and cooperation with kids outside the home. The Wilderness Canoe Base is a camp located in northern Minnesota off the end of the Gunflame Trail in the Boundary Waters. What it is usually a 7-day long trip for kids. They also have it for adults and different groups, but the main focus is for kids to go out. What they do is the camp is actually located on an island, so they pontoon the kids from the main roads to the island on camp, and they spend like a night or two on base learning about safety and other issues that might come up in the wilderness. And then they are sent out with a guide and spend about 5 nights on trail in the wilderness, and they canoe all day sometimes and just explore pretty much and camp at night. Here are a few pictures of the camp, and just to get a better feel of what it looks like. My brother is also a guide there. He has seen a lot of kids come back and be a lot more confident from the camp, and just watching these kids grow even in a week span has really been influential to him. Also, we have about 3 Gustavus students that actually work at the Boundary Waters Canoe Base, so we do have students out there that are doing this as well. Also, I've personally been there as a camper and have experienced amazing things. One day we paddled all day long, and it was the most tiring thing of my life, and then just after, the feeling that we actually did it was really powerful, and we still talk about that to this day, and that was probably when I was about 11 years old. So it's definitely a lasting impression on people. According to the Summer Camp Handbook, outdoor wilderness camps are unique because they put kids out of their comfort zone and into the wilderness and force them to adapt. This is very true because, like, when I was out there, we had a huge unpredicted rain, and we had to get camp up and set and food made while all this was going on. So it was really challenging to try to struggle to get what you needed to get done with the people that you were with, and trusting your guide to help you through all of that was really an intense situation. Also, according to the Wilderness Program info, the wilderness programs feature development of intense interpersonal relationships. So kind of like I just touched on the communication between you and the others in situations that aren't necessarily very routine, or rituals that you have to go out of your way to come up with ideas. So they really encourage you to get to know people, and you kind of see the best and the worst of them through times like this. Also, it helps the opportunity to overcome significant emotional and physical challenges. I talked with a lady who is a leader of a group, and she sent a kid up there, and she said he had a PhD in being a couch potato. So he just had no motivation and really didn't do much, always played video games. And then on his arrival back from camp, he was the most outgoing person, wanted just to share his wilderness stories with anyone that would listen, and just completely changed the kid from being someone who doesn't have any motivation to being very confident. Also, according to the Wilderness Program info online, says that it encourages kids to gain a greater understanding of oneself and one's place in the world. So again, just to get out of the house and really be aware of one's surroundings and kind of get a better understanding that there is more out there than just your house or your school or even like your city. Just there's a lot more out there that a lot of kids don't necessarily get to experience on an everyday level. Jenny B from Project Success was a leader, and she said, one of the biggest differences I've seen is their self-confidence skyrockets after they return from camp. They say they did something they never thought they could, such as pedal all day or lift a canoe. So just again, with the confidence, these kids really take the lessons that they learn up there and apply it to everyday situations back at home, that they can actually do things they never thought was possible. The Last Child in the Woods, Saving Our Children from Nature Deficit Disorder book explains that the value for troubled youth in outdoor camps or programs is great. They learn how to have more self-esteem, independence, and optimism. Also, communication and bonding, there's no choice to get through problems. So as I earlier stated, there is a lot of emphasis on communication and getting through problems and experience things with the group that you're with. I spoke to Jedediah Sharmer, and he believes, as well as the entire camp staff at Wilderness Canoe Base, that money should not be a reason why kids don't get to camp. He said that kids should not depend on money to get out here. Money shouldn't be the reason why they don't get to come. So we should raise money because the camp also believes that kids should not depend on money to get there, and that also kids that can't necessarily afford camp can be the ones who could benefit the most. So like I said, with the kid who lacked a lot of motivation, he probably couldn't afford to go to camp, but because of this camp's philosophy that they should still get to come, he was probably able to come. According to the Wilderness Canoe Base website, they spent about $150,000 in camperships last year. And this money doesn't come from a separate fund, it comes from their annual budget, and so that money could be used, that they're spending on kids, could be spent on other things that they need around the camp, such as materials and rebuilding. They had a fire in 2007, and they're still rebuilding from that. So I'm trying to help fund the campership section so that they can use their money on other things. But they do strongly believe that money should not be an issue for these kids, and they should get the opportunity no matter what their income level is or their family situation is like. So I know what you're probably thinking is that you don't have that much money or you can't afford to donate to send a kid to camp. What I challenge you to say, what I'm saying is that you don't have to give a lot. Anything will help. One campership is about $350, and my goal was to send one kid to camp. I've already raised about $80, and so any little bit helps. Even if I only raise a partial scholarship for one of these kids to go to camp, it still is more than nothing. So I encourage you to donate anything you can. Anything makes a difference. Also, you might be thinking, why can't these kids just stay at home and go to programs here in the city to learn some of these things? Again, you can't really get out there and experience things from home. Sometimes it takes a week to get away from your problems and unplug from phones and computers and all the technology to really understand what's going on in your life, and for these kids to understand that there is a community out there that cares and that wants to see them do well. So again, for just less than a couple bucks or a side of fries at the calf, you can help kids like Anthony experience a lot more than the squirrel outside his window. Think about it.